So a warm welcome to this course, this 7.5-hour course on social development. Now, one of the things that I always say when we're talking about child development is to remind people that, we know, obviously, children don't develop in a vacuum. They don't develop cognitively, but not socially, or physically, but not socially, or emotionally, but not socially. Obviously, all the developments are intertwined, all the different domains as one domain of children's development develops, so the other domains also develop. And these domains that we've created, cognitive development, social development, emotional development, these are domains that we have invented, humanity, we've chosen to study child development in these different domains. Child development is much more holistic and much less broken up than the way that we teach about it, or we learn about it, or we theorize about it, or we categorize it. But we have to do that in order to break it up into understandable chunks for learning and for tracking and monitoring and supporting children. So I'm going to present to you just this very short introduction for this very long, short course on children's social development. And when we talk about children's social development, that is vast and can include so many things. Play, for example, children's play is a massive part of, and arguably one of the most important parts of children's social development. But they also develop in so many other categories and domains when we talk about social development. So I'll tell you about a few that we're not going to cover on this course. So empathy, how children develop, share feelings, see the world from another point of view, that is connected to social development. But we're not going to be looking at that on this course. Cooperation, working together, that is social development. We're not going to be looking at that on this course. Sharing, which is essentially the act of dividing and distributing and using toys or materials, it's a massive part of children's social development. We're not going to be talking about that on this course. Turn taking, which is kind of a form of sharing. Sharing the floor, sharing the turn. It's funny, my 3-year-old twins can take turns, but they can't share. So if we just buy one cookie, for example, they can't share it, but they can take turns. So if we tell them, tor, take turns, one will have a bite, the other will have a bite. But if we break it and ask them to share it, absolutely can't do it. So sharing and turn taking is definitely part of children's social development. Self-esteem is part of children's development, social development. Independence, children developing their sense of independence, being the ability to think and act of themselves without necessarily assistance from others. That is a key aspect of children's personal growth and self-resilience and self-reliance as well. That we're not talking about as part of this course. Social problem solving, the ability to navigate and resolve social conflicts or dilemmas, understanding different perspectives, navigating, negotiating. We're going to touch on that because we're going to look at conflict. But social problem solving, that's not a main topic of this course. Understanding social rules and norms, that is part of social development. and the course is not really going to touch that either. So if those are all the things that we're not going to look at, that Sammy says all of these things are part of social development, what on earth are we going to do in the 7.5 hours that we have together? Well, we've broken the course into 3 sections. So section 1 focuses on communication, which is massive. So communication leading into language. We've dedicated actually the main bulk of the course to examining communication, learning about the stages of language development, looking at communication from 0 to 5, to see what those stages of communication development are, because they are so vital and fundamental when we're talking about social development, that has to form the foundation of social development when we're talking about a course on social development. So another aspect that we've chosen to focus on is the emotions, children's emotional development, but how they manage their emotions, how they cope with their emotions. And the third aspect that we've chosen to focus on, the third and final aspect, is about conflict. And our focus is really on understanding what conflict is, what kind of conflicts might arise between children, socially, what that means for their social development, why conflict is important for children's social development. And through that whole, all of those sections, communication, emotions, and conflict, we are looking, what is our role as early years practitioners? What can we do to support communication development, language development? How can we support children at the different stages? What can we do to provide emotional support with children? How can we, what is a tantrum? What is a meltdown? What is an outburst? All of these things are normal parts of social development, but how do we deal with that? How do we respond to that? What is our role as early years practitioners? Same when it comes to conflict. How can we support children to navigate and resolve conflicts for themselves? What skills do they need? What can we teach them? How can we support them to do that? So those are the kind of key things that we're going to be looking at in the next 7.5 hours. As always on these short professional courses, you have the opportunity with each section of learning, with each chunk of knowledge, there is a quiz. There's also some forum activities to do. There's actually a blog in this course, an external blog on someone's website that you have the opportunity to add a blog entry. There is text boxes where we ask for your reflections on readings and ideas. There's a really exciting interactive case study about Miriam, who is 9 months old, in the butterflies class. And as always, in the conclusion, you have a nice section of further reading and research. None of that is anything that you must look at, and I wouldn't expect you to within the 7.5 hours. But if there is an area or an aspect of the course that you think is particularly interesting, in that further reading section at the end, you will find some links that you can always bookmark and come back to later. In that section, there's also things that you can download. There's also videos that you can watch. As I said, none of those are essential reading. They're all extra reading for your own research. And if you're doing this course as part of a larger diploma, then those additional readings will also help you with your assignments and will help you in different aspects of your early years work as well. So that's it in a nutshell. When you get to the end of the course, in the conclusion, you've got your further reading, you've got your final thoughts from us that attempt to kind of sum up the course. And then you have your finish button with the flag that says finished. Make sure you click that when you're finished, and that will take you to the Google form where you summarize how long you spent, what you learnt, and that gives us the opportunity to evaluate your learning on the course and to make sure that you are certificated and accredited for the learning that you've done. We do need that course completed, that form completed, in order to tick this course off as complete. There's a grades button. You can go ahead and click the grades button at the end, and that will help you to review your learning and make sure that everything in the course you've had the opportunity. It's all the quizzes, it's all the mini quizzes, and I would recommend anything that's not on 100%, just dip and have another dive into it and just bring your scores up to 100% for all of those quizzes, because that gives you an opportunity to just refresh and revise that knowledge. So buckle in. There is no way you're going to be able to do this course in one sitting, even if you put an entire day aside to do this. You're going to need to do this in 3 or 4 or more mini chunks in order to have the concentration that's required to get all the way through and to process all the information. And there are some longer videos in the course. You can bookmark them and watch them in bed as part of your YouTube watching before you go to sleep. So buckle in, enjoy the next 7.5 hours on children's social development, and I hope that the information here supports your knowledge and development and also has a positive impact on your practice.